Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I think creative people and art make life worth living, make tough times bearable. And today I have a very special guest, my friend Marc Samuel. He's an actor who you may have seen on General Hospital as Felix Dubois. He's also been in the Mismatch Game a bunch of times as most recently Morgan Freeman. And before that, he did Barack Obama. He's done Bill Cosby. He's just funny and delightful and wonderful. And he has two new projects coming out that are very exciting. The first is The Merry Gentleman. It's a Netflix movie about a small town where some venue's going to close, so the men have to be like a full Monty male stripper thing to save it. So I'm all in on that. All in. It's already my favorite holiday movie ever. And he's also going to be in a Netflix series called A Man on the Inside with Ted Danson. So I was excited to talk to Marc, but before we get to that, I want to remind you that this podcast, Dennis Anyone, is brought to you by me. I do it because I love it. It brings me a lot of joy to lift other artists up. I find that very meaningful. But if you want to support the podcast, you can do that in a couple of ways. You can go to DennisAnyone.net and leave a tip in my virtual tip jar. Help me cover my expenses. There's also a thing there called Buy Me a Coffee, which I love. And the other thing you can do is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of shows under the Derek and Romaine podcast banner. And for a monthly fee, you get my show early and all these other great shows. So check that out at dnrstudios.com. All right, let's get to the interview. Here's my conversation with Marc Samuel. Joining me now from the San Bernardino Mountains, it's my friend, actor Marc Samuel. Welcome to the podcast.
What's up? What's going on, Dennis?
Well, I love your background. It's got that kind of woodsy, mountainy thing, and I got to visit you up there a few weeks ago. I went up there for a thing. I loved it up there. I like look at those pictures, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was back by that lake. So I love.
Oh, dude, we were happy to have you. It was nice to have you here. We kind of have that little mid-century meets the mountains vibe. That's kind of where we have been focusing on our interior.
You work as an actor in different projects, and but you live a little ways out of LA. What's it been like to have those two different worlds? Like, how does it affected your career to have a little distance? A little less hustle and bustle?
Honestly, I'm kind of a product of both environments. I'm a product of an urban environment, having grown up in Chicago. And then when our family moved to Oregon, I lived in a small rural community outside of Portland, Oregon, and would go back and forth to kind of be near my relatives there in Chicago and my relatives in Oregon. And so as a result, I've come to find that I need to be able to be living in an environment that's peaceful, quiet, where you can get your chi aligned. And then I also need to have access to good food, cultural and ethnic diversity, the latest of, plays or shows. I need to have that within access and a variety of culinary delights, if you will.
So what you've got going on now works for you, the kind of the best of both worlds vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just far enough to feel like another world and just close enough to be able to make all my appointments on time or my work on time.
There it is. All right. You're coming out in a Netflix movie called The Merry Gentleman, which is already my favorite Christmas movie ever. I've not seen it. But let me just read the tagline to describe for people what this is so they can get excited like I am. To save her parents' small-town performing venue, a former big city dancer decides to stage an all-male Christmas-themed review. First of all, we got to save the performing venue. We've got to.
Of course. I mean, it's perfunctory. It's like, look, at Christmas, if you don't have the venue, what do you got?
I mean, you got to have it. Every town needs a venue for sure. So what character do you play in this wonderful story?
So in The Merry Gentleman, I play the character of Roger, who is married to our main protagonist's sister. So the female lead, Britt Robertson, played by Britt Robertson, is my sister-in-law.
Right on.
And I play Roger, who's married to Britt's wife, played by the amazing Marla Sokoloff, who also is a well-known actress. She's also the writer of this film.
She wrote the film. Interesting.
She's pretty badass. She's pretty badass, multitasking, and she directs. She does it all. She's every woman, like Chaka would say. And it's wonderful. So I'm recruited to be, I'm enlisted into this mail review for the purposes of saving my parents-in-law's venue. And my parents-in-law are wonderful, played by the wonderful Michael Gross of Family Ties,
Sure.
and Beth Broderick of Sabrina, Hall of Fame, and many other things. Beth
Right.
also is a badass as well. She's done everything. So it's a lot of fun. All the stuff that ensues in the process of, can we do it? Will we make it? Is it going to happen? And what happens when we get up there? You know?
Right. So for the audition, did you have to dance?
Oh yeah. The first audition, which I did remotely, I kind of had to do a little bit of something. I didn't have to do too much, but the second audition, they had me go off and like just kind of freestyle to some music. And thankfully, I didn't fall down. It worked out, got through it, and they seemed to be okay with it. So yeah, and the rest is current history.
Now, did they pick the music, or did you get to pick the music that you?
They picked the music. They picked the music, which was an additional challenge. But I think that's also part of the job where I think of my friends that are professional dancers, you know, for musicians on tours and things like that. And it's not as though they get to pick what they're dancing to. The gig is to move and to be able to move to as many different kinds of songs as possible. And we had a little of that going on in the film. You just have to be ready, you know. And so thankfully what I was doing seemed to fit with what they were putting down and stuff. But yeah, I think about it. It would have been way easier if I was able to come in with one of my favorite songs and just kind of like, you know, your little boombox. Now check this out. Click,
right.
You know?
That's not the gig. You got to dance to the music that they can get the rights to. So
part.
How does your character feel about being in the review? Is he all about it, or is he a reluctant stripper?
Oh, he's reluctant.
Okay.
He's reluctant. Roger is a former football player, collegiate, and kind of one of the high school football stars from a long time ago. And now, you know, he's a little out of shape. He's not what he was back then. And so it's one of those things where it's kind of like, you know, what am I doing up here? But ultimately, you know, my sister-in-law hooks it up, teaches us how to get through it and stuff.
How many different numbers are you doing? I have lots of dance questions.
I personally do 4, and the rest of the guys, I think, do 5. Yeah, rest of the guys do 5. I do 4, and then we have some other people that pop in.
Interesting. Now, do you do? Yeah. You're not like a fireman guy or like a cop guy. Like, it's not that kind of review.
I'm gonna wait till you just. I'm gonna let you.
I'm excited.
You know, I don't want to get.
That's a good amount of numbers.
Yeah.
Chad Michael Murray is the male lead from One Tree Hill.
Male lead. Absolutely.
And how long is his hair in this movie? It was hard to tell from the pictures.
Chad's hair is kind of I'd say not short. Medium length.
He's got to be able to toss it around.
On his way to medium length.
Yes.
His hair looks great. You know,
no doubt.
Chad's got good hair. Got good hair.
I just want to. He can do so much with it. I just want to know what to expect. When people talk about Netflix in Hollywood, it's kind of like, oh, Netflix is ruining everything. Also, I really want to work for Netflix. It's like both things are going on at the same time.
You know,
but they're ruining everything. Everything's different. Oh my God, it's Netflix. I got to take it.
Exactly. I think there's every change in our industry comes with a duality. It's kind of like, hey, Netflix has tons of programming, a lot of opportunities to get stories told, a lot of stuff out there. And yes, it does have a presence, which is completely different and could possibly, like other, you know, corporate / entertainment ventures, could kind of encroach on certain things. But my experience, I can only speak for my experience with it.
What do they like to work with?
They are fantastic. I've loved working with them. I'm not bigging them up. I'm being honest. They were wonderful. They were really interactive with us. They've been very good about getting the word out about the film. They're excited about it. And we were allowed to just do our thing. You know, the people we've met from Netflix have just been lovely people.
I love that. Did you worry about, I got to get in better shape for this? Or were you watching what you eat? Like how in your head were you about, I'm going to be partially clothed in this movie?
You know, it's funny. I was pretty in my head about it. And I can't say that I was in, tip top, athletic shape, but whatever,
for the character. Yeah.
It fits for the character. You got to let it go. There's something beautiful about surrendering to that stuff and letting your ego take second seat.
Yeah. This is what it is. Radical acceptance.
It's what it is.
This
exactly.
Is it. I'm going to either have fun or I'm not.
That's right.
Yeah.
I will say since the film, I've been really consistent with my workouts and kind of watching my diet a little bit more and stuff. But I was a little nervous, and it kind of reminded me. I used to be on a soap a while ago, and they used to do some storylines in which we would have to have our shirts off, and I would always be aware of I don't want to get caught off guard. So that kind of got me in the idea that just be aware. Some projects you're going to have your shirt off, so you just got to be ready.
Was there something kind of fun about doing those numbers and having people screaming and I bet it was a blast.
It was so fun. It was so fun. And honestly, you go through some of the same nerves that you would as the character. Are they going to like this? Am I making a fool of myself? Is this silly? Are we going to have fun? And then once you get through it, you're like, that was amazing. And then, Of course, with films, we do take after take. And by the third or fourth take, we're just having a blast. And you just surrender. Again, you surrender to it. You let it carry you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I had such a good time. And I wouldn't call myself a professional dancer. I like to dance.
You got some moves. You've got some moves.
Yeah. I can put a little something down, but I'm not going to be part of the Joffrey Ballet anytime soon.
Right. What's your favorite outfit from the movie?
Oh, let's see.
Do we have suspenders? Do we have cowboy hats? What's happening?
Well, we might have some of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, we might have some of those things. I will say that, I was comfortable in all my outfits. There wasn't anything that was impeding on my movement.
Okay.
So for me, I'm pretty simple. If I can move, if I'm not feeling constricted, I'm good with it,
Right. I love it. What I love about Christmas movies generally is it's so Christmassy everywhere you look. Like in every frame, there's a tree. Even if you're in one house, it seems like they have 7 trees because there's always got to be a tree behind people. When you walk onto the set, does it feel like there is Christmas everywhere, like a confetti cannon of Christmas stuff?
They did such an amazing job. It was so beautiful. Like everything looked wonderful. Everything was... Everywhere you looked, it was Christmas, especially in the club. And then we had an amazing director of photography named Lars Lindstrom. He was so fixed on making sure every frame was gorgeous. And I would look at just random frames before they did anything to the film. When I was doing some post-production, some ADR, just one shot that was on the film, I looked at it. It was just this random shot. I'm like, that looks incredible.
Yeah, I want to live in that snow globe. Yeah.
He's so gifted. It felt like we were in this snow globe. And, we shot it not at Christmas. So you'd walk in, and as far as your brain was telling you, oh, it's Christmas and it's kind of cold and it's outside. And it was wonderful. It was so cool.
What's Chad like?
Chad is such a good guy. He is so cool, man.
Nice to hear. I like that.
He's humble. He's friendly. He's funny as hell. We had such a blast. All 4 of the main guys in the dance
in the troupe. I think we could call you a troupe. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's cool. I've never been part of a troupe. I'll take, except if you count my breakdance days, but that's a whole different thing.
Did you get into breakdance? Were you into it?
Oh, when I was a kid. Yeah,
I love it.
I was in a group called the Superior Six. There are only 5 of us, though. That's a whole nother story.
What would you guys do as a Superior Six?
Oh man,
maybe Jesus was the 6th. Or God.
Yeah. You know what?
I feel that's maybe how you could spin it.
It's like walking through the sand with the footprints and stuff.
Yes.
when
That's
there
when
were
I was
only
carrying
2 sets of footprints.
myself.
When there were 2 sets of footprints, that's when you were doing the helicopter. When there were 4, that was picking you up from hurting yourself after doing the helicopter.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. But Chad's a good dude, man. He is. It's really nice to be able to work with people that they exceed your expectations. And He was my first time working with him and stuff. And the guy's just right on. He's just one of the guys. All of us just clicked. There were no egos. There were no, you can tell a set is really working well when everybody's just like easy. And it was easy as like, water on the beach. You know what I mean?
I love it. Were you guys in LA shooting, or were you like in Canada or somewhere? No, LA.
We shot in different places around Los Angeles. Right. Yeah.
I have a feeling that you guys are going to save the venue. I don't want to jinx it, but I have a feeling that the dancing is going to save the venue. And hopefully there will be more Merry Gentlemen Part 2.
Cross fingers on
down the line.
That's right.
And you guys, you're also coming out in a Netflix series with Ted Danson called A Man on the Inside. Tell me about that.
A Man on the Inside is a new Mike Shur series starring the amazing Ted Danson. And that is going to be on Netflix as well. And I recur in a couple episodes on that show. And basically, it surrounds the main character of Charles, who's a retired guy getting a new lease on life when he works with a private investigator and becomes kind of a plant in a nursing home. And so it's, yeah.
Now,
so
Mike Shur is like The Good Place, right? That's his.
Mike Shur is The Good Place, Parks and Recreation. He was exec producer of the TV show Hacks, like lots of stuff. The guy's amazing.
Awesome. What kind of part do you play?
On that, I play a character named CJ, who is the son of one of the people that gets really close to Charles, played by Ted Danson. So I'm his best friend's son.
What was it like working with Ted and Mike Shur and being in that group?
I got to tell you, again, I feel like I've had a really wonderful experience the last few months working with people that you wonder what they're going to be like. Then you work with them and they exceed whatever expectation you had of them. And I'm a pretty open guy. I don't hold people on a pedestal. I just kind of go, what's this going to be like? Ted is bar none one of the most beautiful people I've ever gotten to work with in terms of his spirit, his kindness, his engagement. He made me feel so comfortable and it took any trepidation I might have felt working in this job, and just it dissolved. It was gone. He was wonderful.
Do you feel a pressure to be funny in that kind of a world, like Mike Shur, Ted Danson comedy series? Like, is it sort of like, oh, I've got to amp up the funny somehow, or do you just play the character?
I didn't have to do anything. It's so well written, and Mike Shur is like the king of television comedy. Honestly, we would on our local shoot when we were here in LA. It was so easy, and people would come up. My first director was Rebecca Asher, who is a wonderful director and just a fantastic human being. She came up and she would whisper in my ear either notes from Mike or stuff that she thought could tweak something. And I just did it, and it got a bigger laugh each time. And I didn't have to push. I just had to be in it and honest and grounded in my stuff. And they tweak things, and it makes it so much funnier. And then I got to do our remote set with Morgan Sackett, who's also amazing. And he said, try this. Like, I remember we had a whole setup on the North Beach part of San Francisco. They had closed down the streets in this beautiful park. People were out and about in real life eating dinner. That was me, Ted, and one of my favorite actors, Stephen McKinley Henderson, who plays my father on this show. And it was like, go. And we did our thing. And then Morgan said, hey, Mark, try this. Different lines. And I came in and I do that. Mark, okay, now say this. And we change it several times because they see stuff right on the fly that could be funny or more interesting or move it a certain way. And, thankfully a brother was comfortable and happy in doing his thing. So I got in, did my thing,
I love
it. Was a wonderful experience. I can't wait for people to see this show as well. It has heart. It has a lot of comedy, and you'll recognize a lot of the main stars in the film, main cast.
Well, you've shot both of these films probably in the last year, or the movie and the TV show, and then it's the time to wait for them to come out. I think it's hard for an actor. You can do like a really great thing and you think, oh, this is going to lead to this or that or whatever, and maybe it does, but it's just like riding the waves. You kind of got to zen it out, right? Like, how do you...
It's fun.
How do you cope with the life of this?
I've done this I've been a SAG actor for a very long time, like before I even got to Los Angeles. And when I was really young, everything was like a big wave or a deep valley. It was like, oh, I didn't get it. Why? All that kind of stuff.
Right. Everything felt like life and death.
Yeah, life and death. And then you understand there's so many factors outside of you that can help you get a job, or maybe you're not right for a job. None of it is personal. None of it has anything to do with just you. You literally could levitate in a casting office, levitate and throw candy to everybody. And everybody's like, this is my favorite candy, or give people puppies. And they could be like, your audition was the best thing I've ever experienced since Oxygen. And you might not be right for that role just because, they might want to hire their cousin Pookie, or maybe they have somebody else who's been knocking it out of the park, who's a little bit more in line with what they envision.
Right. Has better chemistry with or physical looks right with the person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or there could be an offer already out to somebody who can bring a lot more attention to a product.
Right.
You can't take any of it personally, but I will say this. If you go in to every opportunity doing your very best, doing it like you're already on the show, giving everything you can and bringing that which is intrinsic to your personality to every read, I guarantee you'll make fans in offices. You'll make fans of people who see you, and jobs are always happening. And you may get hired. This has happened to me. You get hired for certain jobs that you never auditioned for because of something else you did, or because of another time that you worked with somebody on a project, and they're just like, hey, bring in so-and-so. All you can do is be grateful, excellent, do your best to make your career what you'd like it to be, and give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. I mean, you will work. Just make sure you have other things to do that you love to do too.
Yeah. Did it take you a while to get to that place? When you were younger, were you much more torn up about stuff?
I was much more torn up about a lot of things when I was younger. I didn't get into National Honor Society when I was in high school, and all my close friends did.
You got to have the braids in your graduation picture if you were in National Honor Society.
There's a lot of stuff that I didn't get to do. On the track team at Oregon, I ran at Oregon, and I jumped well. I got to travel a little bit, but I didn't get to do a lot of the stuff. I didn't go to the Pac-10 championships. I didn't go, or what was the Pac-10 when I was there. Now it's the Big 12. Anyway, time flies. And so, those things would break me up. But after a while in this arena as an actor, you just kind of get to a point where it's like, you are already enough. And I know that seems almost like a hackneyed expression, but you have to really understand that which makes us special or propels us forward is us in our most natural state. And you get to a point where you can, synthesize your real self, your experience, not trying to be somebody else because they're
not
the
trying to be what they want.
That's right. Because half the time they don't know what they want.
Right.
But they do know that they want something about you, which is why you get invited. So you go in, do your thing. You are not going to book every job.
Right.
You are not going to book every job. Even if you're a hot top tier actor, those guys sometimes don't work. But if you're excellent all the time, you become dependable. You become a dependable actor that the casting office can count on to get the job done, because they're also independent contractors trying to contribute to make something. You're an actor that someone else won't be afraid to sign their name on because they know that you're capable and have performed well, and you work well with others, and you're fun to be around. And you take yourself seriously within the business aspect of it, but you're not, an egomaniac, or you're not and you get through it and you'll be fine. And it took me, you said, how long did it take me? It took me about 5 years to academically understand it, 10 years to really let it be employed in my life.
Yeah.
Now I just do my thing,
Yeah. I know you primarily through the Mismatch Game. I had met you years before that, but you came and you initially did Bill Cosby, which we retired for obvious reasons. Then you did Barack Obama. You've been doing Morgan Freeman. And this attitude that you talk about, that is what I've noticed when you've come and done these shows for free. Or you always just are like, you have this kind of brightness around you, and it's always a pleasure. And of all of the actors I've sort of observed, you seem very... Like, if you have to do something else for money, it's fine. Like, you don't have that sort of like, I should be this or that. Like, it's very, and I admire it so much. And it sounds like this sort of like grateful, good, but able to sort of ride that. And I think it's really admirable, because I think I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I should be like, why is that happening for that person and that person? And like, when's it going to be my turn and all of this stuff? And I can't believe I have to do this. And like, you don't have any of it. And it's really admirable.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Look, I come from a half Jamaican family, and those people were immigrants that worked humbly and hard, when they came to the U.S. and did their thing. And then on the American side, my grandmother worked incredibly hard and did what she needed to do. And the fact is, you have to be resourceful. And my dad was a stage actor at one time in Chicago, and he put the fear of this industry into me before I got here. And it's like, you want to be here? You want to do this thing? Then you've got to find all the ways to make sure you're still here when your opportunities come. And they will come, but you have to keep yourself here. And if that means you got to work 3 jobs, you got to work 3 part-times, you got to work doing this other thing, you got to metaphorically get the poop shovel and pick up the poop. Do what you got to do to be able to serve that which you're impassioned. You have to do that. If you're serious about your stuff, be serious about it. Be about it. Do it and make it happen. Whatever you have to do.
When did you first know you liked acting?
When I was 5.
What was
when
the
I saw
story?
my dad on stage at Roosevelt Theater doing Fiddler on the Roof. He was performing in it, and I understood at that moment, looking at him on stage, sitting next to my mom as a young little 5-year-old. I looked up there and I recognized that was my dad, but it wasn't my dad when he was past this invisible point.
Right.
He was another person that looked like my dad, but I understood at that point, I wanted to be part of the story. I wanted to get up there with my dad and be on stage and play and but it was the Fiddler on the Roof. So, but he could actually, he passed enough to where he could have easily been part of that community.
What did he play in Fiddler on the Roof?
It's been years. I can't even remember, but he was in it.
He was in it. And you were like, I want to get up there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember Dad when he knew I was thinking about doing this thing, he said, okay, well, let's go to a community college and, we'll do a play together. And so we did The Music Man was Mount Hood Community College. And, just to test me to see if I really wanted to do it, if I was talking, mess. And I loved it. And he pointed out the archetypes of different people that were on the set. This person's kind of a blowhard. They just talk about all the stuff they've done. They want everyone else to know how great they are.
He was giving you the skinny on the personality.
He was giving me the skinny. He was straight up. He was Steve was talking that shop. And I began to understand the difference between, actually wanting to do the thing and telling everybody that you're doing the thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. No, it's like being in it for the right reasons, for the actual doing of it rather than the sort of glory part. What were you in The Music Man? Were you like a kid or were you Winthrop?
I was just basically, if it were a film, I'd be like one of the kids in the community. Let's put it that way. Sure. Like, background actor.
Townsperson.
Townsperson.
The first time I ever got paid to perform was a production of The Music Man. It was in Arizona. I was at Arizona State University, but this was done separately from the college. And it was done at Grady Gamage Auditorium, which is the Frank Lloyd Wright iconic building. Ooh. I was a teen dancer.
Were you a Shapoopy dancer?
Yes, and I hate Shapoopy. I think Music Man is like the squarest musical in the world. It was like so corny. I was like, Shapoopy, I can't. It makes my flesh crawl. But I was in it for the buzz.
Even saying it, like I would have messed up because I was like Shapoopy, key poopy.
It's so dumb. But Russ Tamblyn came in and he was our Harold Hill. Yeah,
get out of here.
No, I know. So it was very glamorous. And here's my favorite anecdote about the story. I got paid $75 to do the show, and at the bottom where it says for, it says actor. So I highlighted where it said actor, and I made a Xerox, and I highlighted where it said actor, and I sent it to my mom to say, look, what I did this. And she deposited the check, and it went through. She deposited the copy, and it went through.
So you basically were one of the many examples of young kids having their parents spend their money.
Yeah, exactly. I was a con person, not unlike Harold Hill,
nice.
in the piece. But I love that you and your dad did the show together. But I bet it was a blast. I bet you had fun.
We had such a good time. Had a wonderful time.
Yeah,
wonderful time. I just remember my dad being in the scene. The what do you talk? What is it? The guy goes, what do you talk?
Cash for the merchandise. Cash. I don't like any of it. I wish
Yeah. And I was just proud. I was just proud of my dad, and it was cool to see him, and it was cool that we were doing this thing together. And I knew that the fire, which had been kind of sparked by watching him, and then being a kid watching these stories and stuff, and wanting to be part of the story, even the cartoons, which I don't know how physically possible that would have been, but I knew that I wanted to be this actor.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's kind of what fuels my attitude, my gratitude, my perception, my state of being in the middle of all of this is because I've already won. However this career goes from this point on, I've already won because a dream became manifest into a professional reality for me.
Yeah.
Period. And that can never be taken away. If I stop tomorrow, I've already done it. And I've done it a lot more than I thought I would.
Right.
And for that, I will always 100% be grateful. And I think that's honestly where it stems from. And being able to have my dad see it, because he had to stop because he was raising a family. For him to be able to see his son take the baton and go like, okay, I got it. And then run with it to the point at which I could run to it, and have him see it before he passed away, seeing me do professional stuff.
Yeah.
That's a joy that cannot be replaced,
What's his favorite thing that you did? Did he have a favorite project?
Miss Evers' Boys on stage for the Portland Repertory Theater.
Nice.
I remember doing the scene, and at the very end, where I was this dancer who's become crippled with syphilis because of the Tuskegee, syphilis they did on Black Americans. He loses his ability to dance, which is the only thing about which this character was impassioned. And I'm in the midst of the character, like I'm deeply in the play. And once I finish the dance number, boom, I look up and I see my father in tears.
Oh.
And it was almost like a full circle moment. Me watching him as a 5-year-old on stage, and then now he's in the audience watching me on stage. And it's like, it was cool.
Well, from your father's point of view, it must be a complex set of feelings, because on the one hand, you love what he loves, and that's so meaningful. On the other hand, he knows it's hard, and he knows it's not secure. For a parent, it must be like this, push and pull, right?
Yeah. But what I said to my father, and is what I say to everybody else, some people will say to me, come up to me like, Mark, this career must be so hard. And I dead ass look him right in the eye and I say, you know what's harder? Working for somebody else, doing something that you don't want to do because you feel you have to do it. What's harder? Doing the thing that you love, that brings you joy, that drives you, that doesn't feel like work when you do it, and then having everything else that you do serve that, or working day in, day out, doing something you don't love until you get your gold watch. if you make it that long. If you don't get late.
I don't think they do the gold watches anymore. I think they farm those out. You might be able to order something on Amazon. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, no job in this world is guaranteed.
Yeah.
You can just hedge your bets a little bit with the type of career you choose.
This topic is very relevant to me at the moment because it's no secret I've had some ups and downs in terms of just the creative things I do, making living, cash flow, all of that stuff. And I was wondering lately if I'm sort of fetishizing the difficulty of it. Like, oh, it's so hard. It's so, like a bit, even in my own head, a little bit around it, because I'm not making it up. It's there. Yeah. But is there a way to tap back into the joy and like put that stuff on the back burner because it is something that I chose. It is meaningful. Conversations like this are really meaningful. It's really rich. And yet at the other hand, I can see my bank account. I can see the time. I'm not an idiot. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
My friend Danny, I've become sort of the woo-woo guy around my circle of friends. Like I'm in the happiness science and all that shit. And he sent me – so now people send me stuff like that, and I love it. But he sent me this interview that Coleman Domingo – it was a soundbite that he did.
I love Coleman.
But he was talking about people – it's the same thing you said. Oh, isn't it so hard? And he goes, yeah, objectively it probably is, but he never thought of it that way. He never bought into the hard. And I think I've been buying into the hard a lot.
I saw that interview with him. And it's funny, he and I never personally had this conversation with each other. We've spoken about a myriad of other things. But when he said that, I completely understood what he meant. Yes, there is the existence of hardship in everything that surrounds us. Day-to-day living, which some of us take for granted, is not the same for everyone who lives in the world. So that's a macrocosm of this, and this is a microcosm, the career of acting. Yes, there is an awareness of what difficulties lay ahead when you choose it. However, you don't have to subscribe to it. And also, I believe strongly that the first place you have to look and acknowledge is, where's your heart in relation to it? Are you grateful to be in it? Are you happy to be in it? Does it bring you joy? And do you look at what you do have in this very moment? Not what you don't have, what the things you have at this very moment. For example, and please forgive me if I overstep, but Dennis, you've created a game. You've created that. You've created a means by which to earn money.
Oh, by the way, this is not overstepping.
Yeah. You've also created this entertainment, this program, which is the send up of a beloved show, but you've created this thing which not only helps actors to express, it raises funds for homeless gay youth who need it. It's a very important thing. It's a very real thing. You did that. Just be grateful, man.
Yeah, man. I'm going to have a drink of water.
Water's good.
I used to cut out the parts where I would cry, but then I just left them in because it's not as it's on audio. It's less glaring, but it's also real. No, I appreciate that because when I think about the things that give me sustenance that have sustained me, they're not things I got paid for.
Yeah,
but I'll look back and go, "We did that. How fun was that? We made that thing. There was nothing there before. Now there's something." Yep. But it is a road. It is a journey. What did you think when you first came to LA? You worked in Portland and then you decided, okay, I'm going to go to LA.
Well, when I finally stopped listening to everybody else tell me how horrible LA is, because that's what was keeping me from coming here for a long time, listening to other people, which is a surefire way to screw up your life. Don't listen to other people. Listen to your heart. Unless your heart says take drugs, don't do that. Right. And I got here, I was nervous. I was still mystifying the business a little bit, and that's part of what makes me what makes you kind of like when things feel bigger than you, it's because you don't know enough about it. You have to research it. Yeah. And, but when I got here, just the immediate senses were, oh, thank God. I come from Chicago and lived in Portland, Oregon. No more shitty weather. I was happy about that.
Right.
Just off the bat. I remember November, it was like late November, and I was playing volleyball on the beach, and the sunset was coming down, and it was warm, and I was so comfortable. There was a breeze, and I don't know, somebody must have been playing like the Cocteau Twins on the and it was like, this is so idyllic and dreamy. I get to live here. And that was before I even had an acting job. I was working at United Airlines on the ground crew in Burbank, California, and I'd watch stars coming out in and out and go and stuff. And I called all my friends that I used to know that were living down here just to kind of create a sense of home. And once I did that, I had my friends to play basketball with. I had my place I was living. I had a job. Once I got home settled, then I started, going places with my friends and meeting people. And I was just so happy. It felt like the longest vacation for the first 7 years of my life in Los Angeles. It never felt like I was on anything but vacation. And I think that joy, in turn, helped me to become employed. Because when you're in a state of joy and happiness, me and my friend Nan Meltzer say, happy makes lucky. And when you're happy, and it's true.
Well, you're just fun to be around. You're just lovely to be around. Oh, good. Mark's doing the show. I'm so glad. Like out in Palm Springs or whatever it was. Like, oh yeah. Like you're just.
It's fun. It's fun doing your show. It's amazing doing your show.
Thank you.
But it's like, when you're happy, there's a vibe, man. It's if you're genuinely happy, it creates a vibe, and that vibe can come many different wonderful things. Great conversations, wonderful interactions, opportunities. It's almost like a supernatural facelift or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It makes you attractive, and it's not something you can force. Your joy has to come internally. And when you're in that vibe, people are attracted to that vibe.
Yeah.
When I got my commercial agent, because I was having a wonderful day hanging out with friends at Marix Tex-Mex.
Which is reopening, by the way. It's coming back.
It's
coming back. I know. I buried the lead. Gosh. It's true, but not basis.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sister restaurant, but Marix.
Yeah, Marix is great.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both fine.
If it's good enough for Aniston, she loves Marix.
That's right.
Apparently.
That's right. So I was at the top of my joy, having fun on this warm summer day in my new place of living in Los Angeles. And this woman walks up to me and says, hey, and I would always tell people are not going to just come up to you and say, you're the guy. That's a movie. That's TV. Right. That doesn't happen in real life. So I'm doing my thing. And this lady walks up to me and says, hey, are you an actor? And I was kind of like, well, I'm doing the things I need to do to become a professional actor, but I am an actor, yeah. Well, me and my husband think you have a really great look. Can I introduce him to you? Now, half of me was like, oh, okay.
It sounds like a nice three-way could have been on the books.
Because of the family I come from, like, oh, they're trying to do something. Yeah, I don't know about that. But I met these guys. And they said, the guy said, why don't you come in on Monday and we'll talk. And I walk into this office, very suspicious, and then look at the wall, and I recognized probably 75% of these people from TV shows and commercials. And the person answering the phone at his agency, I had seen in 8 commercials easily.
Wow.
And so I went from being suspicious to oh, this is legit.
Right.
Oh, but this doesn't happen, because I was so used to the idea that people don't just give you stuff.
Right.
There's a trade-off. But that's what happened. And I'm still at the agency today. They're my commercial agents. They've been my commercial agents for the entirety of my time in Los Angeles. And it was the stepping stone that helped me to accomplish other things. And it started from being in a place of sincere joy.
Love it. I have a friend named Robert Nunez who is a big fan of this podcast, but also a big fan of General Hospital, which you were on as Felix Dubois.
Felix Dubois,
a nursing student, and I was like, okay, so what should I ask? What should I ask Mark about General Hospital? And he said, well, you have to ask about the Nurses' Ball, which I guess is a long-time variety show thing that they do on the show.
It's a variety show storyline within the storyline of General Hospital.
Right, so they would always do this every year, and so you would do song and dance stuff, right?
Yeah, we would all the cast, not all of the cast, certain people that were asked would perform in some way outside of the kind of the normal characterization that is created within the show. So if there's it wasn't about good guys and bad guys. It suddenly became like, what if we did a fundraiser and these people came up, and that sometimes it would be a surprise for people, or some people would sing, some people would dance, some people would do magic. And it's been a storyline that has happened since the 80s, when they were trying to continue to raise money for AMFAR, for AIDS research.
Oh, wow. So there was a tie-in.
Yeah.
That's
there
really
was a tie-in.
cool.
So, and General Hospital is one of the first shows to really actually address, AIDS back in the 80s, when it was taboo and verboten for anybody to even show concern. And this show did that. So this Nurses Ball storyline was the storyline when they renewed it. They brought it back because it was gone for a few years.
Right.
That's when the character of Felix Dubois was also introduced. And Felix Dubois was supposed to be the son of another Dubois that was played by Billy D. Williams on the nighttime version show. So I was supposed to be his
perfect casting for Billy D. Williams' son. I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, Mr. Williams never came back to the show.
Okay.
It would have been great to work with him. I'm a Lando Calrissian fan, 100% all the way. And I love Mahogany, and I love Billy D. Williams. He's dope.
Yeah. I got to meet him once at this place called Gendarmerie, this like cologne and spa place in West Hollywood. And he was a regular there, and he would just go hang out. I got to say hi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the introduction of this character to that show.
Now, Robert was unsure. Like, were you the first gay character on that show? Was Felix or one of the first? What were the first?
I was the first.
Of you?
I was, I guess, the first openly gay character of color on the show, is what I understand. As there are many people who have much more knowledge of the show, they can be more specific about it and stuff. So I guess at that time for the show, that was kind of something significant.
For sure. Yeah, you almost had a three-way, but he said that somebody chickened out, and I don't know who chickened out. There were you and two other actors. Well,
I think at the time they were writing some kind of love triangle thing.
Right.
And at some point there was a potential of that happening. And I think what they did was they wrote my character as the moral high ground, where it's kind of like, you guys really seem in love, I'll bow out. And
all right. That old thing. But I like the intrigue. I certainly hope they drag that out for a few episodes. I think that before you get cast on a soap, you would have an idea of what it would be like. A lot of pages, a lot of intensity, or whatever. Like, what was different about it once you started doing it than what you thought?
Well, the one thing that was different about it for me was actually figuring out how to do it. I was an actor that was very intimidated by chunks of dialogue. And
you would see it on the page and you'd be like,
I would see it on the page and I'd be nervous about it. And I'd played Paul in 6 Degrees of Separation on stage. And that is the most dialogue of any job I've ever had to date, that I would do on stage live. No cutting, no editing, nothing like that.
Oh, I wish I could have seen that. I bet it was great.
Yeah, I knew I could do it. But I remember the night before the show, and my introduction, there was 3 massive pages of monologues, like so much to say. And then the tricky thing about monologues and daytime dramas is you say the same thing over and over and over, but different ways. So it's hard to get an anchor sometimes on, okay, which way am I saying it now? What, and then adding other information and stuff, or referring to other information. And it was a lot. I had a headache and a stomach ache the night before. I was nervous.
Right. You want to do a good job.
And then I did it, and they were really, really, everybody was very supportive, and some reason what your brain will do when it knows it has to do something, you'll do it. You'll do it. You will rise to the occasion if it's important enough to you. And this was important to me, that I did my part and did it well. And I remember there was an employee at General Hospital. Her name was Sandy, and she's one of my favorite people there. And she just basically broke it down. She said, "Hun, come here," smoky voice. "All these people have fucked up at one time or another. That person, this actor that everybody loves, everybody fucks up. it doesn't mean anything. It's all right. You just do your thing. Once she said
also,
that,
I feel like Sandy might be your next Mismatch Game character. By the way, that was a solid.
Yeah. Sandy was 100%. She was actually a wonderful person to have there at the set.
And what was her role on the show?
Oh, she actually worked. She was part of the crew.
Right.
Yeah. So she was amazing, and I'm glad that I was able to talk to her, because she really helped me move forward. And then having great acting class and this show, I was able to gain alacrity with my training and commanding dialogue and having a different way of looking at lots of dialogue. And that in turn helped me to develop as an actor with stuff to this very day, including the show where he kept changing lines on me. I was just like, I trained for it at boot camp, which is what daytime dramas are. They're boot camp for actors that are doing stuff. For some people, they're long-term careers. And there are like some consummate skillful actors whose main job is to be a daytime drama actor. And I'm glad I got to be a part of it. Glad I got to get some training on it. It's helped immensely.
Now, is your character still alive? Felix is still alive, right?
He's not dead, but it's been a while since I've been in. And I always, for me, whenever I do the show, anytime I walk out the door, especially when you're recurring and you're not on contract anymore, for me, I'm comfortable saying, well, that was a great, blah, blah year career.
Yeah.
They've had me on the show for so long. It's been great. I've been grateful for all the opportunities that come from it. It got me on the board. It's helped me to move forward. And honestly, if they call me back, happy to go back and do my thing. But I don't wait by the phone. Sure. I don't wait by the phone for anything. I just keep it moving.
You keep it moving. That's what we talked about before. Soap fans are very loyal. What's it been like to have those kinds of fans? Have you gone to conventions? Talk to me about the fans.
I used to do that stuff when they had it. It's changed a lot since doing it before. It used to be much more popular, much more consistent, but a lot of that stuff has changed. I think the last fan event of any type I did was a year and a half ago.
Yeah. And
it was great. It was wonderful. The fans are wonderfully supportive. They're really cool people, salt of the earth people. They'll go to bat for you. And I appreciate them very much, because they are, honestly, without the fans, General Hospital would be off the air a long time ago. Like any soap would be off the air. You need the fans. The show needs the fans. The fans don't need the show.
Yeah.
And so you have people like really having your back or supporting any artistic endeavor or any television programming endeavor, any type of project. That's where it excels.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful for them. They support me even in my stuff that I do these days. And so, yeah, big thank you to all you guys if you're paying attention to this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
What did you like about the character Felix? What was cool about him?
I liked that Felix could be in any environment with all the actors from whether it's the mob storyline or the hospital storyline or just any of the peripheral storylines that were happening. Felix was a fulcrum in different scenes. And there were a couple characters that were written like that. I'm grateful mine was written like that. My dear friend who I love and miss, Sonia Eddy, who played Epiphany on the show, she was like that. There were just certain characters that would be at every intersection of the show.
Yeah.
And so that was my favorite thing, because it wasn't always about I'm in the hospital. Sometimes it was like I'm in potential danger with this situation, or I get to be a caregiver, like when my character was the caregiver for Sonny's father, played by the amazing and wonderful Max Gale of Barney Miller.
Right.
Just being able to work with those actors, be able to work with all the actors I've gotten to work with, and have these moments where the scene takes you and the writing takes you. When the writing is right and the scene is right and the intimacy that's created on set is right, you can do magic, and it can actually be a wonderful thing. It could positively affect people who are viewing this stuff.
Were there any storylines that were a little out there where you're like, oh, okay, I can make this work?
Well, for me, any storylines that were out there were a couple things. I'm not going to call out specifics because I don't want to offend any of the writers that may have written some of the stuff. But there were times where I was kind of like, well, this isn't, I don't know what this serves, or I don't know why they're doing this. And this seems a little bit more, what's the word? Like a spectacle more than anything. But it's the world of daytime drama.
For sure. That's what it is.
If it's grounded in a lot of reality, then it's crazy.
I love at the end of scenes before they go into commercials where the actors have to keep that beat going. They have to hold that intensity. Is there a word for that?
Well, I call it the hold a fart look. I just I always call it that.
That might be the title of this episode.
That's what I call it. Because
I knew there had to be a word for it. I love it so much.
Look, that's the phrase I use for it. Everybody might have their own thing. It's constipation.
I'm going to think about that all the time now, and it's going to delight me. You just gave me a wonderful gift. But it's a skill. You have to be able to do it. Like, you have to
if you're doing it, admittedly, if you're doing it correctly in the work, it's my opinion that you're actually thinking of everything that's gone on in the scene, but you're not landing on an answer.
Yeah.
So that creates a more grounded look and experience.
You're processing.
You're processing.
Yeah.
But if it's been a long day and you know that you have to hold it, then you just, daytime and actually some primetime shows kind of adopted that thing where it's like, well, we're leading to like this kind of minor cliffhanger. What's the decision going to be? What's going to happen? Are we fooling the viewers into think one thing? Now you see a lot of it with, I'm a huge fan of HGTV.
Yeah.
Which I think I mention all the time whenever someone's within earshot. I know it's not real. I know a lot of it's created, but the one thing you see in every HGTV show, somebody has a conflict come up. Oh no, this ceiling's not supported right. We're going to have to get a whatever. But it's not in our budget. Then they cut to the person's face like, what are we going to do? And the person looks like they're about to answer something and they hold.
Right.
It's a soap opera.
Soap opera.
And they come back and they fool you every single time. They're like, oh, it'll work out just fine. We have the money. We'll be able to. So I liken that to what soaps do. They kind of hold you for a moment, and then the reveals on the other side of the commercial because you got to make that money with the sponsors.
You got to make them wait for it. You also have a short film that you worked on called Buscando Alma, and I'm studying Spanish, and I should know what that is. Is it Finding Alma? Is it
Looking for Soul? Searching for Soul. Yeah.
All right, I like it.
Or a searching soul,
a searching soul. Okay, I got you.
So it
wasn't like the name of the character Alma. Alma is soul.
No. So Alma means soul. But Buscando Alma is a short film done by Melissa Fisher, and it surrounds the separation of a mother and child for many years, and when the reunification of the family happens, there's been a lot of changes, and there's the anticipation of what will it be like. I haven't seen my mother in so long. What's it going to be like? And so it's a beautiful film. It's very simple to the point, and I think that Melissa wrote a beautiful story. It stars the wonderful Carolina Gutierrez, and she plays the main character, Cristina. And then you just have to check it out.
All right, I like it. Is it out there for people to see, or is it?
It's going through several.
It's
going through the festival circuit right now, but it just got Oscar consideration. So
right on. So maybe that'll happen. What do you play in it?
I play. Christina's boyfriend named Dan.
I love it.
And so the supportive boyfriend, essentially.
Yeah. I have a couple of other GH questions I should have asked about, but I didn't, so I'm going to. Did you have love scenes on that show? Very many?
I had not very many. Strangely enough, I didn't have very many love scenes. I had some kissing stuff. I had some like waking up in bed, did they or didn't they type stuff. But I think for my character, I got to be honest. I don't think there was ever there was never any moment where it was particularly sexy. And in retrospect, I'm kind of like, they could have probably beefed up some of that.
You got the goods. They should have worked it.
But it's okay.
Did you get evidence that it meant something to the audience that the character was gay? Did you hear from young people or
all the time.
Like what would you hear from people about that?
They were glad. There were a lot of times where I would get word from fans that they were really grateful to see representation on screen, not only part of the LGBTQIA community, but also a black character on soaps. At the time that I was on that show, there wasn't a lot of Black American representation during those years when I started. Not to say that there never was. They've had black characters on the show prior, but there weren't like a lot at the time I was there. I think there was me, there was Sonia playing Epiphany. I'm trying to think who else was there. But along the way, other people came in, we had some other characters come in, and that was nice. There was I can't remember who Sean played, but Sean was there before me too. But I just didn't think there was a big family representation. Like, you have the Quartermains, you have those names, but there was at the time very little representation. So I think a lot of people were very hungry for it. Black American viewership is viewership, and it's like they have the money to spend on the products and stuff. And I think it's actually smart to understand your audience and be inclusive on the show for those people who are fans of what you're doing. And if you want to maintain that fan base, you keep contributing to it. They're so much better now. There's a lot more on the show now than there was before. But it did feel kind of like, oh, hey, I remember I'd been on the show for a while after Sean left, and they brought in a couple more black people on the show. And it was almost like being a black person in Oregon. I joke slightly, but it's kind of like you see a black person in Oregon, you're like, hey, man, what's up? Hey, that's what it felt like for a little bit on the show. But they got better about it, which I'm glad to see they did.
What have you noticed over your career in Hollywood, auditioning, getting cast, hearing meetings and things like that around gay characters, gay actors, and also diversity generally? How have things changed since you first started auditioning?
It's better. It's way better than it ever was.
How does it feel?
In that you're not, if you're a character of a particular underrepresented or minority group, let's say,
right,
the reality that's created surrounding you, your job, what you do, what you like, is not so minuscule. Thanks to TV shows that came a long time ago, Noah's Ark, Queer as Folk, anything done by Donald Glover, all these things contribute into making a wider swath of what a person can be on screen.
Right.
Your character being gay doesn't have to be, it's not a joke to be gay, which you get written as the punchline back in the day, or you're black, meaning you are only going to be, you're subscribed to this type of interest or that type of interest. Now you see people that are just like, you can be a physician, a physician who has like social anxiety, loves comic books, but has a point of view and is in love with a person that's way out of your league. And it's not this, groundbreaking moment. It's just a person in the show.
Right.
You have like a lot more representation of how dynamic our culture as Black Americans or as gay people can be. It's not just that. It's, oh, what else are you? Tell me more about who you are. And those shows exist, and those shows have proven to be interesting to people. And there's a massive audience to watch all of these things, and it becomes secondary. It's not the main thing that's driving the story.
Yeah.
It's just a real thing that exists. Now you have a lot more trans representation in shows, including General Hospital. They had trans representation, which I thought was wonderful and should be included because it's the world in which we live. It's the real world. And I know you don't have to write about everything. Not every writer knows about everything.
Right.
But you gotta, if you're going to write the world from a grounded and real perspective, do some research, find out what's in the world and include it, Yeah. And for those people who would be like, well, that's too much. That's this. You can't right based on someone else's narrow existence.
Right.
The people that protest too much are those who've probably never crossed their street, who've never walked out of the door of their house. And, if at the very least, if you're not going to go see what the world is about, let's bring some of the world to you. And hopefully you have the critical thinking available to go, what is this? And what's it about? You have the internet where you can actually find out what the world is if you're afraid to engage with somebody. And maybe along the way, you'll find some comfort in that there are people that may have a different outward life than you, but have a lot in common with you.
I think the first time I saw you on screen was in Hot Guys with Guns, Doug Spearman's sort of spy romantic thing like that. It was very cool, sexy, fun movie.
Doug, I'm so grateful for Doug for that. And it was funny. I was doing that film about the same time I was doing General Hospital. Like I was sleepless nights because I was bouncing between both jobs, and I felt really grateful. It was like, you have all these spoils that you're able to enjoy and stuff. But, at the same time, it was also a lot of stress. It was kind of like, will this movie be well received? Will this TV show be well received? I was happy because at the end of the day, my father and I had a conversation before I even took General Hospital, for example. Before I took this movie, he asked me, are you going to do something that is going to shame the black community? And I was like, no, none of these do. And he said, are you going to do anything that's going to shame the LGBT community? That's how he referred to it at the time. And I said, no. And he goes, well, go get your jobs, And once I knew that he was
so
cool with
beautiful.
Stuff, yeah, well, my dad was a very smart man. He was educated. He employed critical thinking. He wasn't so wrapped up in any particular thing. He thought about, and that's something he handed down to me and my brothers and my sister. I think that's hugely important. But once I knew that I wasn't doing anything that was going to cause the people I loved shame, I didn't care what anyone else thought, and that's something I carry with me to this day too. If I'm okay in my heart with what I'm doing and I can see its value and its long-term effect, and I'm working with people that also have respect and are grounded in that, ultimately go fearlessly into it, because the world's not going to change itself. You have to do what you can to make the effort with what you got.
Did you ever get any messages from the business side saying, hey, don't talk about that stuff or keep that under wraps or play it straight? Or,
No. Good. I will say that along the way in my early auditioning career, there were some people that probably were a little limited in their scope and ability to think about things. Where if I was going in, I had a hard time playing gay characters because I just wasn't booking them, because the way I would play them is as a human, not a cartoon. Right. And I think a lot of people were used to seeing the cartoon. Yeah. So I've had people in casting say, can you be more gay? Yeah. Can you be more, they wouldn't say, can you be more black? They would say, and get this, they would say, can you make it more street? Because in their head, they thought all black people were from the street. Right. And I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah. None of the people that live in the country count in this. Yeah. None of the people that moved up for the northward migration from the South in these rural communities, they're not all from the street. You understand that? None, and so
I had a friend that was on a sitcom playing a gay character, and the writer or the showrunner would come up and be like, could you give it a little more of the, like he couldn't come out and say, but basically was saying, flame it up, like gay it up.
And look, there's an educated way you can say what you need, but first you have to get over the fear and misunderstanding of cultures, because you don't have interaction on a daily basis, or you don't have the vocabulary to say something without fear of appearing a certain way. Yeah. If you want somebody to be whatever, more gay, whatever that means at the time, well, what specific things do you mean? Do you want them to be more effete in their
body language? Yeah.
Do you want them to be more exaggerative? Do you want them to be more joy filled? What do you need? Do you want them to be more catty and black, or street? You don't have to say street. What kind of black person are we talking about? Are they from Brooklyn? Well, give me a minute. We got some dialect stuff to do. We got some history to study. Are they from Atlanta? That's a different person. Are they from Chicago? What part of Chicago? Are they from the North Side? Are they from Stony Island? Are they from like South Shore, Bronzeville? Where are they from?
Yeah.
What's their experience? And most people, because they're so result oriented, and some people don't think about the research or meaning of what they're asking. They ask it as if it's a simple presentation. And it's going to be different, especially if you're having a person who has a limited experience in education speaking to someone who has a broader one. So you kind of have to find that halfway. And I think Hollywood has done a little bit of growing up, always has more to do.
Sure.
Because it's an entity that's reflective of the human society, which also has some growing up to do. But yeah, I think
you've seen an evolution in your career.
I have seen an evolution.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Man. Yeah.
Absolutely. And not just because not because they simply said, oh, let's make it this. It's because certain people took risks and wrote stuff or did stuff. And nobody had their back when they were writing it, but it becomes a financial success. It brings money to people. And they're like, oh, that's what we need.
Right.
So it's not by altruism. It's by opportunity.
Yeah. The market like that. So
they're just like, ooh, the market like that. So let's do the right thing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Speaking, my final General Hospital thought, one of the first buildings I saw when I arrived in LA is the building downtown that I think is the exterior of General Hospital. Like,
oh yeah,
downtown.
County Hospital.
Yeah.
County Hospital. Yeah.
You must drive by it a lot heading out to the mountains.
Well, back when I used to live in downtown, I would see it a lot more, but I don't see it like I used to see it. Yeah. I mean, I had a job for a while when I was kind of managing a panaderia in East LA.
Of course you were. Of course you were.
And so I was driving by that area a lot more, and I looked at it, and I would look at it a lot, but I never made the connection until I watched an old opening for G. I was like, oh, that's that building.
I work there. That's where my hospital is.
Yeah, it's funny. I never even made the connection. It was because I wasn't watching soaps, coming up.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. When does Merry Gentleman drop?
The Merry Gentleman is going to be dropping on Netflix on the 20th of this month.
November, baby.
November, and it's going to be running all through the holidays. We would love for you guys to watch it, enjoy it, spread the word about it. And then A Man on the Inside starts on the 21st of this month. So we really hope you guys enjoy this stuff because there was a lot of love put into it. A lot of really funny and talented people, did their thing. We're just excited for you to see it. So yeah, check it out. And if you want to, I don't want to step on your toes. I usually ask you something like this. If you want to comment or show some love to any one of us, my Instagram is Marcasart, MarCasart on Instagram. And on Threads, I'm not on Twitter or anything anymore, but that's a whole different Oprah. Right. Reach out, show some love, and we really appreciate your patronage.
Yeah, we're going to be all over Merry Gentlemen. I have two final questions. What's the dream gig? What would you love to do?
I would absolutely love to be part of I would love to be part of a comic series, and at the same time, shoot a supernatural film and a sci-fi film.
Right on.
Okay, here's the dream.
Okay.
Work on a series that's comedic, dramatic, single camera, half hour. And then also in the off time, when I'm not shooting that, shoot films in different parts of the country and world. And have all of them just be good writing. And they can be indie, they can be big budget, but I want to play. My goal has always been to play as many motherfuckers as possible. That's
I love that. That is a great pull quote. And here's my final question. Why do you act?
Because it brings me joy, because I want to be part of the story, because it's an important job to help affect change using the talents that I've been given. And because I like to make believe, and because they have a profession that I get to do it, why not?
Do you have a feeling in the last week that artists are going to need to be a part of something. Like there's a call to do something, but we don't quite know what it is yet, but in a way, but like, oh, okay, I have to step up in a way.
Mm-hmm. Art is always answering when there's something that needs to be said in the world.
Yeah.
Always. That's never changed, and it'll continue to do so. It'll continue to be that. I think we're going to get some amazing art. I know we're going to get hella good comedy, and I'm excited to see where we go because, you know, our artists, our comedians are our town callers when stuff is out of order or when things are in order, you know, and so Shakespeare was doing it, you know, Greek theater was doing it.
Yeah.
It's always been done. Yeah. SNL does it. I mean, look, art is going to art.
Art is going to art.
You know, if there's something to do it about, all the better.
All right. Mark, I've loved this conversation. I admire you very much, and I'm excited to see you in these new projects. So congrats.
Man, thank you so much, Dennis. I look forward to it. And,
Merry Gentlemen Watch Party. We're going to figure it out. I'll text you. All right.
Do it.
Bye. Thanks again to Marc Samuel. Watch his movie, The Merry Gentleman, on Netflix. It will be a holiday delight with a little bump and grind. All right. So this happened, you know, the election happened, and that was a gut punch, to say the least. But I tried to keep busy in the week since then, and I did some fun things. I saw some fun things. I saw RRR on Wednesday, which I've seen a million times already. But that movie is so long and rousing and exciting and thrilling, and I went with a couple of friends that had never seen it, so that was exciting. And after it was over, it felt like more than a day had passed since the election. Like, this was Wednesday night, and it felt like, oh, we've been gone for 3 days or something. And so I think that was helpful. And then on Friday, I saw Making Mr. Right at Vidiots with Susan Seidelman, the director, there for a Q&A, along with Ann Magnuson, the star. And I know Ann a little bit. She was a judge at the Home Video Gong Show many years ago, and my friends Doug and John are friendly with her, and so that was cool. And I'd never seen that movie before, and it was very unique and very 80s, and it had some cool stuff to it, and Susan Seidelman was really interesting to hear from, and she was in her 70s, early 70s, but she seemed young and cool and hip. Like, I was into it. So it was a nice night out. And then on Sunday, I got to see two past podcast guests. My most recent guest, David Ciminello, the author, he did a reading at Book Soup of his book, The Queen of Steeplechase Park, and I got to moderate the little Q&A. And so that was really fun. And also Book Soup is just awesome. And it was great to meet David in person after doing the interview, and people came out and supported, and it was just lovely. And then that night I got to see my friend Tom Goss perform at Hotel Cafe, singer-songwriter extraordinaire, and he was so funny. And I've been friends with him probably 10 years now and had him on the podcast a few times, and it's just been great to watch him evolve as a performer. He's always been a great musician, and fun songs, catchy songs, pretty songs, beautiful ballads, and then funny kind of songs about liking bears. But this time it struck me as how funny he is in his patter. Like, he was like telling stories and making jokes and just like funny, insightful, great stuff. So that was a fun way to also spend an evening. So we're managing is the point, and we're hanging in, and we're not going anywhere. And there's that. So thank you for supporting, and thank you for listening. I want to give a shout-out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll see you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye!